hydrogen is the next big. Do you know anything about hydrogen?
Well, everyone has been working about developing the hydrogen economy, and that really started way back in the 1890s, actually. And there was, interestingly enough, one of the first scientists working on developing wind energy was a Dane named Paul Lacour, and he actually developed a hydrogen generation system back in 1891. But there's a lot of development that remains, so you can say that we've been working on it for more than 100 years, but there are still some technical glitches out there. But longer term, it could definitely be a very interesting solution, and I think a combination of renewable energy and fuel cells could possibly be a future option. But I think it is maybe 25 to 50 years before we see that.
My problem with it is, at this point, if we make hydrogen, it costs money to make.
Yes.
If you, what my understanding is that you're going to need a certain amount of electricity to separate the hydrogen from the oxygen.
Yeah.
It costs a lot of money to make that electricity, and right now we're using coal or you know, nuclear or oil. Why not use? That just makes more sense. Why wouldn't we use something renewable that's free and to separate it?
No, but it's true that it's important that if you're thinking in terms of developing the fuel cell economy, that economy will be very dirty unless you do use renewables. So therefore, the combination is really a necessary one.
There you go, buddy. Thank you so much.
So I'd say the economy where we could also start producing energy for driving cars and things like that. Well, it's not entirely pie in the sky, but it's electric vehicles are not quite at the stage yet where they should be.
The concerns that people have here, they're varied. You know, from a hindrance to navigation, both in the water and in the air. Aesthetically, they're unsightly looking. And what's the other one? That, you know, we're going to hurt the birds or, you know, some of the marine mammals. So since 1980, you guys have like been looking at these. What kind of resistance have you seen? Do you know our situation here and how big of a controversy this has become?
Yes, I mean, you hear the same objections in almost every area. I mean, there are people who fear that they may damage bird life. We have not seen anything of the kind. In fact, a wind turbine really acts as a barrier to the wind. It doesn't suck birds into it. On the contrary, it acts exactly the opposite of what a plane propeller does. So our experience is that we have not seen any birds killed from wind turbines, and you can say that the recommendations we have from the Ministry of the Environment in our country is that don't use overhead power lines when you connect a wind farm. Use ordinary, underground cables, because it is much more dangerous for the birds to encounter power lines than to encounter a wind farm. So there are no recommendations for the wind farm as such, because those are moving objects and the birds know how to avoid them.
Okay, what about marine mammals?
Yeah, marine mammals have played a very large role. In fact, one of the large Danish wind farms has been placed in a region with a lot of seals, specifically to investigate whether that had any effect on the seal population. It didn't. And one of the ways to verify it is that you can first of all count the seals each year, and they've been the same actually. And secondly, some of the seals were temporarily carrying radio transmitters to see how they were moving around the area, and their paths of migration haven't really changed. So we have experience with seals from actually 3 of the Danish wind farms, and apparently they like them, because once when I was flying over one of the wind farms, I saw a sandbank with about 30 seals which were lying there watching the wind farm. That was only at a distance of about 600 yards from the turbines actually.
Now this is you know where the location of this one obviously is.
Yes.
Where they want to put this one. You know, we have planes flying over here, flying over to Martha's Vineyard, and and more importantly, I guess, is that we have more boats. We have ferries going by these things. Do you have anything like that? You have 6 wind farms, right?
Yes.
Is that right? 6
Yeah.
in Denmark. Is there anything that comes close to the kinds of traffic that we might have?
I think we probably have more boat traffic than you do, because Denmark consists of 500 islands and 1 peninsula. So there's quite a lot of boat traffic there. There's also a lot of sailboating in the
ferries,
country.
Though? Big ferries?
Ferries, all kinds of sizes. Most of the ferries actually considerably larger than the ones you see here. So, but quite a few ferries, which are smallish ones too. So the boat traffic is necessarily very heavy when you are in a country with 500 islands. So the boating, there has not really been much of an issue with boat traffic, and the reason is that, of course, that wind farms tend to be built on shoals precisely because you must have fairly shallow water in order to make this economic. So that has not really been much of an issue.
The shallow water is because?
Because the foundations that you build for the turbines, if you have to make them too tall, well then it becomes extremely costly and engineering-wise difficult, because in a place like Nantucket Sound, it will be the height of the waves that determine the strength of the towers rather than the wind itself, probably.
And what about the distance between the grid and where the farm is placed?
Well, that's very important, because undersea cabling is extremely costly. Now, in Denmark, actually, the transmission operator, the grid operator, has to pay for the grid connection of the wind farms, and that is why it's considerably easier economically for the developers to build wind farms in Denmark than it is here in Massachusetts. Here in Massachusetts, the developer has to pay for the grid connection himself. So that is yet another reason why it's important to be reasonably near to the electrical grid and to an area where there's a lot of electricity consumption. I mean, it doesn't help to put the turbines 100 miles out to sea, because it would not be feasible to cable them to land economically.
Will it be feasible in the future?
No, you will see possibly in the future, and I'm talking about 20 years hence or something like that, that we could possibly build them at somewhat larger water depths. But I'd say the upper limit for the water depth today is probably around 50 feet or so. And the distance from shore should definitely not be more than 20 miles. And most of the Danish wind farms are actually located between 2 and about 6 miles from shore.
I can ask both of you guys this question. What is it about Denmark and the people? In your, frankly speaking, why is it that you were able to do this so soon? 1980. I mean, that's a long time ago.
No, but there is a considerable amount of environmental consciousness, I'd say. And on one hand, on the other hand, I think there has also been among the early pioneers really a fascination with this technology. I mean, it's fairly obvious what a windmill or a wind turbine does. I mean, you can see the blades moving, you can figure out that it's turning a generator, and just achieving, I mean, having that thing work, that is really a major technological task. It's not very easy, and quite a few people who actually started in the aircraft industry tried to build wind turbines, and with little success. So you can say it's a technological challenge also. So I think it's both the technological challenge side of it and the environmental consciousness that really have gone together to create that industry in Denmark.
I want to ask you a question, Jan, but the resistance, is there a similarity between how people are resisting this technology here to when that started in Denmark in the, you said 1980?
Actually, I see a lot of comparison between it. It was actually some of the same arguments that was brought in our area. Mm-hmm. But I think that it is because it is naturally that you do have some kind of fear of the unknown. And when you're not, you don't know what it is. Maybe you have never seen a turbine before, and if you walk in the forest at dark, and you hear some sounds, then you're afraid. What's happening? But if you go in daylight and you can see the things moving in the wood, then you're not afraid. And I think it is a rather good picture of the situation, because we also opposed against it because we didn't know what it was. Although we have seen single turbines standing in the nature in Denmark, not always with a big success, because there have been complaints over noise, there have been complaints over everything.
Are they noisy? I mean,
yes, they are noisy, especially the old ones, small ones.
Yes.
There have been problems with gearboxes, there have been all kinds of problems with the earlier models.
Okay.
And when they started to tell about the wind farm project in Horns Reef, my picture was some kind of all those old-fashioned mills, because that was what I have seen before. And today, I must say, I know better, because now I have seen that kind of modern technology they put out there, and it is not disturbing. It is not disturbing the view. We have no problems with animals. We have no problem whatsoever. On the contrary, people are saying when they are coming into our area and looking at our beautiful nature and the white beaches, and saying, "Oh, what a beautiful place you have here. It's so nice to have our vacation here, to relax from industrialization, from at home, to relax when you are having your vacation." And when they spot the wind turbines, they say, "Oh, you're also producing clean energy. How nice!" So actually, you see some kind of synergy between the fact that we're producing energy and we have a vacation area. So we see that a lot of new tourists are coming to the area because they want to experience that. So it's
surely
so
there
positive.
must be people that can't stand them, though. There has to be,
Yeah,
because still to this day there must be.
Yeah, no, but
Because people have the right to think that they're ugly.
Yes, but there are very, 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 very few, and you can't see them in the statistics. So maybe we have frightened 2 or 3 tourists, but we have gained another 100 to the area. So the net benefit of it is positive.
What we've seen actually is that we have had a number of opinion polls in Denmark, actually with 5-year intervals. One of the major newspapers, which is not particularly friendly to wind power in general, has asked the general population, do you think it's a good idea to increase the amount of wind power? Now, it appears that 2/3 of the population consistently think it's a good idea to increase it. And we have moved to a stage now where we have 5,500 wind turbines in the country. They're very visible everywhere, and still 2/3 of the population supports it. Just one comment to what Jan said. I agree, the old turbines were actually noisy. Today, the only annoyance we have with the turbines in terms of noise is that every time you bring a television crew out next to the turbines, they're very annoyed with the fact that they can't record any sound because they would like to hear the swish of the turbines, but it's so low now that you can't even record it on television.
It's that really.
Yeah.
You have a difficult job.
Yeah, I mean,
I'll be coming. I am. I'm going to come and see you guys.
Well,
I'll come
great.
to your town.
Yes.
That's great.
Yeah. Now,
You're welcome.
your town is the last one to produce this wind farm. Is that right? You were the.
Oh,
I mean, it's the largest, but is it the most recent one?
No, the most recent was actually commissioned 2 months ago, and is now running in the southern part of the country, next to a very another beautiful tourist town called Nystad. And they have done, like they've done at Blåvand, they've actually done a small exhibition hall where people can come and see what the technology is about. And I was down there last Tuesday actually and visiting with the tourism people there, and they said that the tourists are absolutely fascinated by what they see.
But there are plans in Denmark to have even more wind farms out there.
Yeah. You were saying
one of the areas they are discussing to place it is at Horns Reef, at our place. So actually, we hope that
it happens.
We will have
it's
another one.
It's good for the economy too, is that
because
right?
it is good for the economy. It is good for tourism.
Okay, I got to ask you this question because a lot of people think because of Cape Wind doing this privately. Now you're saying that your government did it. Basically.
No, this was done by private developers. All of the wind farms are actually owned by major power companies. One of them is owned partly by a natural gas company also. But the offshore wind farms are, about 90% of that was done by power companies. There are 2 wind farms which are citizens' initiatives, where the citizens themselves actually form wind cooperatives. One of them in Copenhagen, where I actually saw to it that my office became a member of the cooperative, has 8,000 households which are members of it, and those households between them own 20 large offshore turbines. There's another project, 10 offshore turbines. There's another project in another part of the country where about 10 turbines are owned by the citizens, but those again are citizens' initiatives. I mean, simply private associations where the citizens have decided to do their own wind park, and that has quite definitely been for environmental reasons. They want to displace fossil fuel from power generation and replace it with renewables.
But it cost. It's hard for me to understand how cost effective it is.
Yes.
So explain that, because it's a lot cheaper to use a coal or oil to make electricity.
No, if you look at it the long-term costs over a 20-year period are actually roughly the same for coal and for wind. Gas-fired generation is at present slightly cheaper, but that's not much. That's about a half a cent maybe per kilowatt hour. Mm-hmm. It's not possible, however, to build wind farms at that cost, because banks are reluctant. This is still a new technology to banks, so they're reluctant to give you loans for more than 10 years for such projects. And that's why generally it is not possible today to do this purely on market terms. So in both in Denmark and the United States, the government helps, in U.S. case, there's a federal tax credit. In Denmark and at the state level in Massachusetts, we have something called an RPS, a Renewable Portfolio Standard, which means effectively that electricity consumers have to chip in a bit too. But we certainly do hope that...
So they pay more?
Yeah, they pay a bit more. It is a bit more expensive than other forms of energy, but you must consider the fact that fossil fuel never paid for the environmental damages by burning fuels. And so if you had proper payment for the other technologies, meaning that they were actually paying for the damage they do to the environment, well, then wind would be enormously competitive. Now, under the way the governments regulate the markets right now, they don't let the polluter pay. And that's why renewables need a certain amount of support in order to compete in the marketplace.
But that's somewhat hypothetical, though, isn't it? Because we all should be paying...
Yeah,
our part
yes.
If we
so you can say the second best solution is to let the electricity consumers pay this environmental bonus. So you can say it's really the polluter pays principle is already applied in places like Massachusetts or Denmark through these renewable portfolio standards. So there is a slight excess cost, yes, to using renewables, but there are also environmental benefits connected with it.
Okay. Now, other forms of renewable energy in Denmark? I mean, seeing that you started with the wind, is there anything else that you're working on?
Yes, certainly biogas is a very big research area, I'd say. There are quite a number of biogas plants. We have a lot of animal husbandry in Denmark, particularly a lot of pork production. Okay. And that is environmentally very difficult because we have a reasonably small land area and a lot of animals, actually. There are more pigs than people in Denmark, considerably more pigs. And anyway, that part of the the sort of problems you have with that many animals can partly be solved by having appropriate biogas technology. It is. You also can deal with a lot of organic waste from industry, organic waste from households using biogas technology. So it's an area which is being worked on, but it is not nearly as economic as wind power at present. So they still need some development.
What about tidal?
Yeah, the tides are very, very small in the Danish area. They're about 10 or 20, about less than a foot, actually.
Is that all?
Yes.
Oh, boy, yes.
In at least in the inner parts of the country. So that is not a major issue. But
do you know anything about it?
Yeah, tidal.
It seems interesting to me.
No, but there are areas, particularly around the English Channel. I mean, both in France and in Great Britain, where it has been, experimented with it. But so far, there is actually one bay in France where they have a tidal power station. But that has not been such a great success. I mean, there are also people working on biomass, and that really means burning of straw, for instance. In Denmark, it's actually prohibited by law to burn the straw in the fields. It must be used for power generation. So that is part of the environmental policy, that you're not allowed to pollute the atmosphere by burning the straw in the fields. You should put it in power plants too. That is a technology which is evolving, but at present it's also more expensive than using wind. So the best places for using biomass technology is really areas where you have a lot of sawdust from operating sawmills. So places like the neighboring country of Finland, there you find that biomass is hugely competitive, and certainly if you look at the future plans for electricity development in Europe, well, there the European Union has decided that we are going to more than triple the amount of renewables in energy consumption. So it will move from 6%, which is what we had back in 1999, to 22% by the year 2010. And all the countries actually have renewable energy policies. Some countries like Finland using biomass, Denmark, Germany, Spain, Italy, France using wind. And so each country has its own resources. And that is why, if you compare with the United States, you can say that one of the biggest natural resources you have for renewable energy in the state of Massachusetts is actually your huge wind resource offshore. Onshore you don't have much, but offshore you really have a very significant resource out there.
You believe that this is a good idea, both of you?
Yes.
You think that,
Yeah.
I mean, I know that you're not really here to get involved in the controversy and the political side of it, but
Nope.
from what you've seen and the things you've seen, you think that that area is good?
Yeah, but you can say there's generally, among Danes and Scandinavians, there's a very, very widespread support for using renewables for power generation. I mean, all the people I know in Scandinavia are very environmentally
But we're
conscious.
we're not Scandinavians. We're
No.
not Danish. We're Americans.
Yeah, I know.
We got to have it our way.
But we
So
know.
do you think, and I want to ask you this personally, do you think Americans would accept
I would say that
having a giant wind farm out in the middle of a sound that was completely pristine before it was touched? Do you think Americans are capable of that?
It is not an exclusive Danish facility to be pro-energy, something like that. There are very, very sensitive and intelligent American people. Actually, it was an American who once told us that you have to look at the world as if we have not inherited it from our ancestors. We have borrowed it from our children, and we have to protect it. So that is important, and it was an American who said that. So there are very intelligent people in America.
Yeah, but that American was an American Indian. Just kidding. Hey, listen, I wanna thank you guys. All right, it was a very good interview. Where are you off to now?
Well, we're off to Cape Cod now.
And you're going to do the same thing there?
Well, we're going to continue to talk to people over there.
Talk to people over there. And then when do you go home?
On Thursday.
Thursday.
Yes.
Looking forward to it? Going home?
No.
You
We
like being
to
on the
stay.
road, do you?
No, it's fantastic to be out here. I mean, I
Yeah.
do understand why so many people flock to this area. I mean, during the right season, so I'd really like to come back.
You come back in the
Yes.
nice season.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
It has been very nice to be here.
Thank you.